All right, so we're gonna get started. Let's go over the warm-up. So for subtraction, just as a reminder, we can't subtract from nothing. We don't want negatives. So we are going to borrow. I'm going to borrow 1 degree. Anytime I borrow 1 degree, that gives me 60 minutes. We went over that last week. And then just as a reminder, I have to borrow again for the seconds. Remember to borrow that degree. A lot of times people just forget to change that 60 to a 59, and that's what kind of makes it wrong. But if I borrow 1 minute, that gives me 60 seconds. And then I'm gonna do some subtracting. So I just grab my calculator for this part. Just make sure things are labeled so the seconds have the double tick mark there. The minutes have the 1. And then your degrees always has your degrees in it. But you should have gotten 63 degrees, 47 minutes, 44 seconds. Does anyone have a question with that warm-up? Okay, so last week you were doing some stuff with that. The Math Excel had the complementary, supplementary stuff and the degrees in the second stuff, so you saw kind of a combination. And then on Friday, once again, it was just kind of a worksheet. Don't feel like you have to print it, like printer ink is expensive. You can just kind of look at it on your phone and then do the problems on a separate sheet of paper. I will, once again, when I have like a minute of free time, put the answer key to that up so we can kind of later in the week or as we're reviewing, we can go through that. But were there any questions on any of the assignments you guys did last week? No? Beautiful. So let's just get into the new stuff, and then if we have time at the end, we can do some more review problems. So we're still on the first worksheet. It's been our third day. So if you have that worksheet from last week, you take that out. There's just a few problems at the end. If you don't have it, you can just write this in your notes. It's just a few examples. It's just how to convert. I'm going to show you an example first. It's kind of on your sheet already. It says example 1. And I tried to put the work there. Once again, it's hard to show work on a computer. I'm with you on that. So what happens is if I said, oh, show me where 74 degrees, 8 minutes, 14 seconds is, you probably have, like, you know it's between 74 and 75, but I don't really know where. So decimals, we're a little bit better at being able to actually think about what's happening. So sometimes we want to take this degree, minute, second, and we want to convert it to a decimal. So here's the steps that you would do, and I show them, or I try to put them under example 1 there. You're going to leave your degree. You never touch the degree, it always stays the same. You're going to take your minutes, and you always put it over 60. And then you're going to take your seconds, and you're always going to put it over 3,600. So just as a general, I would write this part down. Your general thing is you're always going to take your degree. You're going to add your minutes over 60. And then you add your seconds over 3,600. This is kind of the general idea of what you're doing every time. So if you have that written, you always can refer back to it. After you have that set up, you just throw it in the calculator. So this is the day you're going to be like, yeah, I need that calculator because this is not stuff you want to do in your head. So literally, for this, I would take 74. I would add, I'd put 8 over 60, and then I would add, and I'd put 14 over 3,600. So I just throw it all in at once. You don't have to do anything fancy. And then you just go around to 3 decimal places that will give you your answer. So the work isn't bad. It's really just knowing what to do when you see that setup. If you have this kind of general thing, that will make your life easier. So let's look at number 17. So I'm going to go through those same exact steps. If I said convert that to degrees, minutes, seconds, your degree stays the same, so you never touch the degree. I always put pluses in between just to remind myself I'm adding everything together. You're going to take your minutes, put that over 60, since there's 60 minutes in a degree. And you're going to take your seconds, and put that over 3,600, since there's 3,600 seconds in a degree. And then literally I'm just gonna take all of this and throw it in my calculator. That's not something you wanna try to do in your head. That's going to be a hot mess. So in my calculator, I'm gonna do 91 plus, I just do 35 divided by 60, plus 54 divided by 3,600. And that's gonna give me 91 point, I'm gonna round to 3 decimal places, 598. And that would be a final. So the actual work isn't bad. It's just knowing how to do the setup. So why don't you guys try 18? So it says 20 degrees, 54 minutes. So obviously you don't really need to deal with the second part on that one, but at least if I asked you to convert that, could you set it up and see what that would be as a decimal? So that one should have been pretty quick. Degree stays the same. Average measured degree. Put your minutes over 60. And then just throw that in your calculator. That's gonna come out to 20.9. Remember with your answer, you should always have a degree symbol. So if I said visualize, where is 20 degrees, 54 minutes? You're probably like, I don't know where that is. But if I said 20.9 degrees, you'd be like, oh, okay, I have an idea of where that would be. That's why decimals are sometimes a little bit more helpful if we're trying to visualize things. Are there any questions with those steps or 17 or 18? So the steps aren't bad. Okay, so now we're gonna do the opposite. Sometimes we're given something in decimal degrees, but we wanna put it in degrees, minutes, seconds. So we will go through those steps. Once again, they're not bad. A lot of it's just kind of knowing how to put it in the calculator. And this is gonna be a miracle. Most of Trig, you're gonna use your calculator for, you're not gonna actually do the math in your head. It's just the way the thing is. It's just having formulas and knowing how to plug them in. So if that's something you're like, I can do that, you'll be fine in this class. That's pretty much all it is plugging things into formulas. So just try to follow along the original, and a lot of it is based off of this. So for the example 2 there, it says convert that to degrees, minutes, seconds. I tried to kind of show my work, but I'll show you out in person just because reading math, once again, is not the easiest. So if I want to convert this, the whole number is my degree. So I know my degree, I'm all set. But the decimal is the thing that I kind of don't want to deal with. So you're always going to take your decimal, and I'm going to multiply it by 60. So I'm just gonna bring this 34 down, that's my degree. I don't actually touch it, I'm just gonna kind of follow it down with me. I'm going to take my decimal and multiply by 60. That's gonna give me 49.02. So I have my 34 degrees. I'm just gonna keep following that down so I don't lose it. This whole number is now my minutes. So I have minutes. But I need seconds. So what I'm gonna do is I'm basically just gonna repeat that step that I just did. I'm going to take my decimal and I'm going to multiply it by 60. So I have my 34 degrees, I have my 49 minutes, and once you get used to this, you can just do a lot of it in the calculator. I'm just trying to show you the steps. I take my 0.02 and I multiply it by 60 and I get 1.2 seconds. That's okay if this comes out to a decimal. That's just life, but that gets us okay. So follow my steps again. The 34, you can see I'm just kind of writing it down. But it's decimal times 60. That gives you your minutes. Decimal times 60 gives you your seconds. So it's really just the same step twice. You're just taking your decimal and multiplying it by 60, and that will give you your minutes and seconds. So let's try another one together. Once again, it's just getting used to the steps. And then we're just gonna repeat those steps with different numbers. So number 19. So I grab my calc. 89 is my degree. I don't touch this outside number, it stays. I take my decimal, however you want to do it, 0.9004, and I multiply it by 60. Oops. That's going to give me 54.024. So the 89 is my degree, I'm just going to follow it down. This 54 is now my minutes. And then I take this decimal, and I'm going to multiply that by 60. So once again, decimal times 60, and then decimal times 60. That gives me 89 degrees, 54 minutes, and 1.44 seconds. Take a second, we'll go over the steps. Once again, the steps are always going to be the same, just the numbers are changing. So it's just getting used to what you do with those numbers. So to the best of your ability, can you try 20? If I asked you to convert that to a degree, minute, second problem, see if you are on the right track, or at least to set it up. For today, I will let you use your phone. For the future, especially when we're having assessments, you will not be allowed to, so just as a heads up. All right, so the last problem was 59.0854. So 59 is my degree. I don't touch it. I'm dealing with the decimal. I'm just going to do this in my calculator. So I do 0.0854. I'm going to multiply by 60 right in my calculator. And when I do that, I'm going to get 59 degrees, and it comes out to 5.124. Remember, this whole number is now my minute. But now I'm going to take that and I'm going to multiply that by 60. And that gives me 7.44 seconds. So your final answer should be 59 degrees, 5 minutes, 7.44 seconds. Once again, if I asked you what was that, you'd be like, I don't know, but you could kind of visualize where that would be. But we do need to get used to going back and forth between the two. Does anyone have a question with number 20? All right, so that was the main goal for today, just going back and forth. We are going to do some problems where it kind of brings in all of the stuff we've talked about, because our main goal is to just keep that fresh in our head. Degrees, minutes, seconds is something that we just kind of pops up throughout the year. So that's why we spend so much time on it at the beginning. So our main goal is, once again, The more comfortable we are, the easier it will be throughout the year. So I'm gonna say, my compliments, 22.369 degrees. All right, today. So this brings in a few things that we've done. It talks about complement or complementary angles. Reminder, know those words. That means that the two angles add to 90 degrees. It gives me an angle in decimal degrees, but it wants my answer in degrees, minutes, seconds. So I'm gonna do one with you and I'm gonna have you try one or two of these. So first thing, complements, they have to add to 90. So I'm gonna take the 90 degrees and I'm gonna subtract the angle that was given to me. You notice I'm just doing this as a decimal, perfectly fine. You don't have to, you can do it as a decimal, do the workout. So I don't even need to do anything fancy like borrowing, I'm just gonna throw it in my calculator. That's gonna give me 67.639. Okay, so that wasn't bad because I subtracted, didn't have to do anything too fancy, but it needs my answer in degrees, minutes, seconds. So that's exactly what we just went over. I'm gonna take my whole number, that's my degree. My decimal, 0.639, gets multiplied by 60. I just did that right in my calculator. And I end up with 38.34, which gives me my minute. And then I'm gonna take, so I took that decimal. And then I'm gonna take this decimal and multiply that by 60. And that's gonna give me my final seconds. And that would be your final answer. And once again, if with the seconds there's a decimal, that's okay. It's just they don't come all out perfecto. But that's really combining a few things that we've been talking about for the past week. Complementary angles, subtracting, converting. So I'm gonna have you guys try this one. You're gonna find the supplement. Of 102 degrees, 12 minutes, 17 seconds, and I want your answer in decimal degrees. Find a new marker here. So going along the same lines of what we just did, what should they add to? What should I do with the angles? Subtract them. And then do I have to convert? Can you try that one? So I'll give you a minute for that.
Can I go to the bathroom?
Yep, go ahead, just make it a password though. Sorry, this is all me just trying to do this one. Patience. All right, you're gonna do about 30 more seconds if you don't have an answer. All right, so let's look at that one, see how we're feeling, see if there's any questions, and then we just have one or two more kind of wrap-up problems, and then that will be it for today. Main goal is just being able to convert from either side, and then we're throwing in some other review stuff from last week as well. So what I'm gonna do is I see supplements, so I know I'm going to find the difference between the angle I have and 180. So I'm gonna borrow. Remember, I have to kind of borrow twice, so remember to do that. And then I just do the quick subtraction and you have E here. So it would come out to that. And then it's asking me to actually put that in decimal degrees. So I'm just gonna do my quick little step. I'm gonna put this over 60 and this over 3,600. And then once again, this class is impossible without a calculator, so please go. I'm going to throw that in, but I did something wrong, so what's it? I got 77.795 degrees. So check that. You could have also done, if you were not filling the whole subtraction thing, once you saw decimal degrees, you actually could have converted this if you wanted to. If you converted that, you could have done 180 minus the decimal, and then just would have given you a decimal. I don't really care which way you do it, I'm gonna be honest, you're gonna get the same answer. So if you have a preference, when you want to convert, it doesn't really matter. So if you wanted to convert to start, that works as well. That might save you a little work on the subtraction. If you want to convert at the end, you'll get the same answer. So just as a heads up there, are there any questions with that problem? Okay. So once again, let's just do, I'm gonna give you like 2 or 3 wrap-up problems, whether it's the stuff we did today or some stuff we did the other day, just so everything stayed fresh in our head with these nice little breaks we have in between. I know you're still doing work, but sometimes if your teacher isn't there to remind you of stuff, you forget about it. So please do your best to keep this in your brain, at least until we have an assessment. They have not told us when the term ends, so I have no clue when term 1 is ending. So I don't want us at the end to be rushing to get assessments in, so we'll just try to kind of throw them in here and there so we have everything else set when we do eventually know when things are ending. So these are your wrap up. I'm gonna give you 2 problems. If you see something you're not getting, please ask. This one will just say, I'll kind of do two-step problems. So we're gonna add these, then convert. That'll be nice. I'll make you add some decimals. My calculator isn't too bad. So you're adding two decimals. Oh, pretty easy. But in the end, you are going to convert it to degrees, minutes, seconds. And for the other wrap up, sorry if I'm in the way, I will be moving in one moment. Number two, I made it a little trickier. I can't make it too easy, guys. We're going slow as molasses here. I'm asking you to subtract these two things. I want the answer to be in degrees, minutes, seconds. You notice that this is in degrees, minutes, seconds, but this one is a decimal. You can't combine these right now. They have to be in the same form. So since you want your answer in degrees, minutes, seconds, I would convert this first. And then you can do your subtraction. But I'm just trying to show you things that you're going to see. I don't like to make assessments like surprises. That's not fun. And it's more just confusing. Will I ask you 10 questions like that? No, that's just an annoying question, but there might be one that pops up. So I like to integrate those into class so there are no questions or confusion, hopefully, when you do eventually see it on an assessment. So why don't we try those two as a warm-up? We have plenty of time. I'll give you a few minutes. And then we'll go over it quick before we leave. If you need help with anything, whether it's this, whether you had a technology question, this is a good time to ask. Feel free to let me know. I'm happy to help you. But the thing with math is you gotta do it to know that you're on the right track. So if you try it, great. If you're not getting it, ask a question. What's that? Yep, go ahead, just right past. Another minute or two, looks like most people are wrapping up. All right, I'm gonna start to go over them. If you're still working, that's fine. I just wanna make sure I get the answers out before we leave. We only have, hopefully we have a few minutes left, but I'd rather not be rushed. So the main goal, if you tried it, check it. If you don't get it, please fix it. The worst thing you can do over the second half of the week is to be looking at incorrect notes. So fix whatever you do not get. If you see what you're doing wrong, great. If you have no clue what's happening, please ask a question. I can answer it in class, I can answer it after school, I can answer it anytime, but you have to ask it. So I'm pretty excited about this because I can just add those and not do anything too fancy. So I just throw them right in my calculator. And I got 45.375 degrees. Okay, so I wasn't bad to combine them, but I do want it in degrees, minutes, seconds. So our process is the 45 is the degree. I take my decimal and I multiply it by 60. So 0.375 times 60 gives me 22.5. This whole number is now my minute. I'm gonna repeat the process where I take my decimal and I multiply it by 60. And my final answer would be 45 degrees, 22 minutes, and 30 seconds. And that should be your final answer for that one. So just do a quick check. Hopefully the adding wasn't bad because it was just an addition problem, but that converting, you do need to know those two steps. Are there any questions on number one? Number two, I have to subtract them. I need the answer to be in degrees, minutes, seconds. So my hint was, let's convert this, and then we'll just subtract them and go from there. So I'm gonna do exactly what I just did here. I'm gonna take my decimal. I'm gonna erase this so I have a little room next to it. I'm going to, I know I have the 16 degrees. I'm gonna take that decimal, 0.314, multiply it by 60. I get 18.84. So I know the 18 is now my minute. In my calculator, I'm just gonna take the 0.84 and multiply it by 60, and I get 50.4 seconds. That just stays the same. We are gonna have to do some borrowing. So I start here, but I don't want a negative, so I'm gonna borrow a minute. If I borrow a minute, that adds 60 here, but I already had 42, so that gives me 102 minutes. And now I'm going to subtract that. So 102 minus 50.4 gives me 51.6. Okay, so now I go to my minutes. Sorry, those were seconds. Minutes, I can't subtract because I'm gonna get a negative, so I'm gonna have to borrow. If I borrow a degree, that adds 60 minutes. So this now becomes 75. And I'm gonna subtract 75 minus 18. And then last but not least, you just kind of do whatever you can with your degrees. I subtract them. And that would be my final answer. So that one was a little tricky. Once again, I'm never gonna give you a ton of questions like that, maybe one at the most. Remember, for anything in this class, if you show work, you get some credit. So always try something, never leave stuff blank. Anything is better than nothing. If you get part of it right, great, you'll get partial credit. Even if you just write something, you'll get partial credit. So it just depends how much you do, how many points you get. So do as much as you can, that's always the key. But that one had a few steps. You had to convert, then you had to do a bunch of borrowing, and then you had to subtract, you're subtracting. Any questions on number two? Okay, a little bit here.